What's going on, guys? I'm Tim Kelly, joined by Anthony SanFilippo. This is Phillies Stoplight.
Brought to you by our good friends at Wapner Newman, Philadelphia's personal injury attorneys.
I almost forgot to pause there for you to give the Wapner Newman. It hasn't happened very often. I've just gotten used to kind of saying it. But the Phillies tonight finish off a game that I didn't think was ever going to be played. Jesus Luzardo and Ranger Suarez. It was a great pitcher's duel. The Phillies end up victorious by virtue, really, of a Kyle Schwarber go-ahead home run. He is now at 18 home runs on May 14th. A year ago, when he ended up hitting 56 home runs, he didn't hit his 18th home run until May 24th. So he's 10 games ahead of time. The season started like a day later last year, so it's not as though there's some huge discrepancy there. It's amazing. At the same time, though, the Phillies are way too reliant on Kyle Schwarber hitting one or two home runs every night to win right now.
Yeah, I mean it's not just it's not just Schwarber. I mean, I look at it and I say you have three left-handed hitters right now who are going. It's Schwarber, it's Harper, although Harper's been a little bit of a funk, and Brandon Marsh for the season. That's it, Tim. There's nobody else that's hitting. Their right-handed hitters collectively are ranking dead last in the majors in pretty much every statistical category. And so then when you see a matchup like tonight and you see, well, it's Ranger versus Luzardo, you say, okay, good pitchers matchup, but I went into it thinking they're not going to hit Ranger Suarez, so Luzardo is going to have to pitch a gem if they have a chance of winning this. Fortunately, it was 0-0 when both pitchers came out of the game, and then Schwarber was able to hit his home run off of where in the world is Carmen Sandiego or whatever the heck that guy's name is. First runs he allowed though this season, and that was pretty much it. I mean, Phillies did get an extra run on I guess it was an infield hit by Bryson Stott with the bases loaded and 2 outs, but that's it. I mean, they really, really struggle to get any kind of offense going for the most part, Tim, especially against left-handed pitching.
Yeah, they need a right-handed bat. But they just need another bat in general. And I'm going to go through some names. We have not talked about these prior to coming on there, so I just want to get your initial reaction.
Okay.
This first guy has a 914 OPS, but he's owed $148 million over the next 4 years and has a no-trade clause. That would be Mike Trout. What do you think?
Well, I think it would be the biggest story in Philadelphia in forever. I mean, maybe since the Eagles Super Bowl victory, and the crowd the city would go nuts if it happened. I don't see it happening. I think it's an incredible long shot. The Angels are the Angels going to eat if they traded Mike Trout? Are they going to eat some of that salary? And then what do you give up for that? You know, what are you giving up for him? I think he's one of the greatest players I've ever seen play the game of baseball. It's nice to see him back being a healthy player again, and playing at the level that he's playing. I just don't see how it happens. It makes sense. It fits. It fills a need. I just don't see how it happens.
I just don't think you can take on another major deal where a guy's signed through his late 30s, especially one that has injury questions. He's played center field this year, but I don't know if that's a long-term solution, but DH and first base are not going to be a bit. It would be a cool storyline. Beyond that part, though, I just have never gotten the sense that as much as people have tried to will this into existence, that he wants to go anywhere. I think he grew up as a fan of Derek Jeter, a huge fan. Derek Jeter spent his whole career with the Yankees. I think he wants to do that with the Angels. Now, we can debate that logic because it's one thing to get drafted by the Yankees and play your whole career there. It's another to get drafted by Artie Moreno and play your whole career in Anaheim. But he seems intent on doing that. And if I'm the Angels, unless he comes to me and says, I want to be traded, in that case, I think you try to honor it. But I think that they've already wasted the chance to win with him when you had Ohtani there. I think the coolest thing at this point would be at least you have him his whole career. He hits his 500th, 600th, whatever home runs in your uniform. I don't see any reason why they would trade him. They're not strapped for cash necessarily. So to me, Mike Trout just spends his whole career with the Angels, if I'm guessing right now.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, like I said, the only way it would make sense would be as if the Angels were willing to eat, a good portion of that money in order to get, some future return, some kind of return for him. That would be the only way I could see it conceivably happening, that he leaves there. But I think you're right, Tim. I think he likes it there. I think he likes being in Southern California and kind of being out of the spotlight. And um, it, some people will criticize him for that, but there is something to say for a guy who says, you know what, this is the team that drafted me, and this is the team that, good or bad, I'm with them no matter what for the entirety of my career.
Yeah, and you mentioned about what the Phillies would give up, and I think that's going to linger over all this. Dave Dombrowski said a few weeks ago when they made the managerial change that he feels good about the direction of the farm system. I think some other teams might not feel it as good, especially with you don't know what you're getting with Aiden Miller. Who knows in one of these trades, like would Justin Crawford be on the table? I don't know. I don't think you're going to trade Brandon Marsh right now. I don't think you're probably not going to trade Bryson Stott midseason. So I'm not sure in some of these big deals if like the team eats the money and is expecting you to put a big prospect on the table. I'm not exactly sure who that is unless they're willing to bet on Aiden Miller's back. Another guy who has a no trade clause and has talked about wanting to spend his whole career with one team is Byron Buxton. He's got an 899 OPS. He's owed $30 million over the next 2 seasons, but his deal is heavily like incentive structured because he has such an injury history. This is interesting because I think there's a chance if you don't do it that the Braves will. And that's not necessarily a justification for why you should do it, but it is a reality. He's from Atlanta. They are going to need an outfielder most likely. So that it's something to consider, and he legitimately can play center field. The problem with him, as has always been, is availability.
Yeah, I mean, look, I like Byron Buxton. I hope that there are other. Like I said, we didn't talk about this beforehand, so I hope that there are other positions on your list, because I do think you can get away with sticking with Justin Crawford in center field and batting ninth, and he's been a good contributor, at the plate for you so far. I think you could stick with that if you can upgrade somewhere else. So I'm all right with Buxton. I like Buxton. It would be a nice addition. And sure, if you're stealing him from Atlanta, then yeah, that's a win-win, right? That's 2 wins for the Phillies if that's the case. But again, I think that you're looking at a player there that probably costs a little more than you probably are willing to spend for that position. So yeah, I don't know, Tim. I like him, but I'm still putting that on the closer to not really going to happen on the scale. I think it's towards the bottom. Yeah.
Well, most of this list is outfielders, and the reality here is that if they trade for an outfielder, something's going to have to give. Adolis Garcia has played well in the field, and he's had some moments offensively, but he just has not hit to the level that they need him. So maybe the thing that gives is Adolis Garcia gets traded elsewhere, because I think he's playing well enough that like if he ended up being the odd man out, someone would be interested in taking him on for the last few months of the season. Assuming like you're good moving forward with Justin Crawford and Brandon Marsh, and one of the alternatives here is that you trade for Trout or Buxton or whoever, and they play center field, and you push Crawford to left. Crawford has not graded out well in center field so far, and Brandon Marsh goes to right. That might be a pretty good outfield, at least for the rest of the season, but we will see. Corner outfield wise, a guy that the Phillies have been linked to for years now is Taylor Ward. And because the Orioles have gotten off to such a slow start, he's a impending free agent. To me, when you're talking about realistic, he's somebody that's realistic. Now, is he enough? I don't know, but he would clearly be an upgrade. 803 OPS. Last season, he had 36 home runs for the Angels. If you're talking about like what is a realistic upgrade you can make that certainly strengthens that 4-5 spot in the lineup, I think he is that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he is. I think we discussed this last year too, on this very program. And I've never been a huge Taylor Ward guy. I get it. I understand what you're saying, why you would put him on the list. Obviously, he gives you pop in the middle of the lineup. I I don't know. I think there would be a lot more frustration with him. I think he's a lot more like what you already have, with a little bit more potential to hit home runs, which is certainly an upgrade. I'm not trying to diminish that. I just don't know if that's enough to me. Like I don't know if that moves the needle enough for me. I look at it and go, yeah, okay. That's kind of how I look at Taylor Ward.
I think it moves the needle enough that you would do it. I don't know if it moves the needle enough that you go from playoff team to World Series team. But
Right. Yeah.
I don't know how many of these guys do. One guy in theory that could, although he has a 638 OPS right now, he would be one of the ones that would qualify as actually the only one on this list as not an outfielder. That's Ketel Marte, who the Phillies were kind of linked to last offseason. Diamondbacks are off to like a middling start, and they, I believe, have a negative run differential. So, is there a path where maybe they move from him? Possibly. The big obstacle here, beyond the fact he's owed 103 million through 2031, that's not unmanageable. Although you'd be paying another guy through his mid 30s. The big obstacle is now he has 10-5 rights, so he has a full no trade clause. So he can really kind of rake you over the coals for if he wants his last year option picked up, or just doesn't want to come to Philadelphia for whatever reason. Like, he has some leverage that he didn't have in the offseason.
Yeah, but that one excites me a little bit, Tim.
Yeah.
That's a name that I look at and go, okay, that's a difference maker, right? Like, to me, I know he's got off to a slow start, but the talent level that's there, he's as good defensively as second baseman as Bryson Stott. And I think it changes the dynamic of your lineup a little bit, because he's not just a one-trick pony at the plate. And that's something that I really, really like about Ketel Marte. I'm in on that. So if you gave me that so far on this list, he's number one. He's the first name on the list. If you said, Anthony, you get to pick one of these guys to add, I'm going Ketel Marte, and I'm willing to give up something for him.
Yeah.
Right? Like I'm willing to give up a nice package for him, including players off the major league roster if necessary.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you do that trade, Bryson Stott is probably part of the return going to Arizona.
Yeah.
And who knows? I don't subscribe to the theory that Bryce Harper's a GM, but clearly Bryce Harper believes Bryson Stott should play more and that he could be a bigger part of this team. So it would kind of be an awkward situation if you move on from him. But if you get Ketel Marte, assuming he starts to pick it up and you don't get the sense that this is the beginning of a downward trend for him, what that would look like. And even with Stott wouldn't be the headliner of the deal. You'd have to figure out something else. They'd have to be enamored with Gage Wood, or if Aiden Miller gets help, like there would have to be another big piece. It would cost a lot, and that's kind of makes me skeptical. I just don't know that the Phillies this year are in a position to make a big trade like that the way they were a year ago. But this is the type of guy that you would do it for when he's right. So I think he's very interesting. Another guy that's interesting to me, although I don't think it would be someone that excites fans initially, but if I'm trying to project someone that I feel like could get out of a terrible organization and reach another level, Joe Adell has always interested me. He has some flexibility to play all three outfield positions. I think he's better probably in a corner spot than in center field, which might work for you. He's still only 27 years old. He's got incredible power. Hasn't consistently like been an on-base guy, but he's someone, if you told me like in 2 years he's hitting 40 home runs, I wouldn't be shocked. But there's a chance you trade for him and he has a 698 OPS too.
Yeah, I like him more than Taylor Ward, so it automatically vaults up the list there for me. And it is because of his youth. It is because you look at it and say he's just kind of entering his prime, and he already had a big home run season last year. So we've seen him do it. So I'm in on Joe Adell as well. It doesn't excite me as much as Ketel Marte, but it certainly excites me more than Taylor Ward. And the reason I'm not even including the other guys is because I don't think Trout and Buxton are really viable as far as working out a deal for them. So I look at it, I think we're now in the ballpark of the kinds of players that could be available at the deadline. And I think Joe Adell kind of fits a little bit better than Taylor Ward would.
I think Taylor Ward is like a more sure thing than Joe Adell, but the ceiling, especially because Joe Adell has one more arbitration year after this year, Taylor Ward would be a rental, but Joe Adell's ceiling is higher. But that's kind of what the Phillies need. They need to kind of, in the way they did with Kyle Schwarber in free agency, they need to find another guy the first time. They need to find a guy that right now is valued by the league as being good and ends up being much better than that. And Joe Adell to me sticks out as someone around the league that could theoretically be that. The final guy has Phillies connections. He is an impending free agent. He is a left-handed hitter, but Dalton Varsho is an excellent fielder, and his dad was the Phillies bench coach, Phillies interim manager for 2 games in 2004. Gary Varsho, he's named after Darren Dalton, so he's somebody. Yeah, it wouldn't be the right-handed big bat, but he's just a good player. And a year ago when the Phillies added Harrison Bader, it wasn't like they solved their problems, but it was like they went and got another good player, and the move worked out pretty well. So this would kind of be that. You have a guy that has graded out as one of the better defensive center fielders in recent years. So you'd be upgrading your outfield defense, probably moving Marsh over to right and Crawford to left, and maybe in that scenario, you're able to keep Adolis Garcia in the mix and he becomes more of a platoon guy. So Varsho is at least worth mentioning to me.
Yeah, I like Dalton Varsho. I wish that he got on base a little bit more. But he does have a little, he also does have a little bit of pop. He runs the bases very well. You already talked about him being an excellent defensive outfielder. So I think that there's a lot of tools there that are beneficial for the Phillies. I am a little turned off by the fact that he's left-handed, because now in my mind, you're too left-handed, and you haven't solved the problem of right-handed bats that can't hit, which is every right-hander on the Phillies right now. So I, in that vein, it kind of falls maybe in the middle of this pack of names that you've listed here. But it's not for a lack of interest in Varsho as a player. I think as a player, you're right. He would be a good fit. I just don't think that I want another lefty. I want you to fix the problem on the right hand side of the batter's box. So that's what I'd like to see.
Here is two other lefties that I think you would just take them regardless. I'm putting them in the complete long shots category, but their teams aren't playing well, and just throwing it out there. Yordan Alvarez and James Wood. I think it's unlikely the Astros trade Yordan Alvarez, but certainly teams are going to call and make them say no. James Wood, we're probably a year away from the discussion. He does strike out a ton. Maybe is more of a DH than a left fielder, but he's good enough to play left field and can hit the ball as hard as anybody in the league. Like, it was a year early when they traded Juan Soto, I thought too. So the Nationals are not a team interested in spending money in recent years. Like, I think the problem with him is I don't know that you have the trade package to get him, but he's somebody that you would give up a massive piece to go get.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. He does get on base.
Yeah.
I do like that part about him. It's not just, home run or nothing with James Wood. And you're right, he's not great defensively, but for left field at Citizens Bank Park, you really don't have to be great in left field. Yordan Alvarez, man, if he became available, Tim, I'm all in on that too. But I don't think that the Astros are going to make him available. But yeah, that would be another name that, man, if you can add that bat to the lineup, that would be something else. That's another needle mover for me. I just don't see it. I just don't see the Astros giving him up, or the Phillies even having what the Astros would want in order for him to give him up.
Well, Yordan Alvarez, you're talking about if they, and I don't know what Andrew Painter's value across the league would be, but like pretty much no one's off the table for Yordan Alvarez. He's got multiple years of control. Position-wise, you wouldn't be in a great spot. He plays left field like 50 games a season max probably, and you'd be asking him to go out there more consistently. But I still have visions. the auxiliary press box in the 2022 World Series was in center field. So when he hit that game-winning home run, a series-winning home run off of Jose Alvarado, the ball sailed over my head and down onto me and Matt DeGeorge and various Philadelphia media members rained beer because people were so hyped and celebrating in the level above us that I've never seen a ball hit like that in person. And having the vantage point from center field, he reminds me I know people say David Ortiz. I get like a Ruben Sierra vibe, whoever you want to name. Like, he is just a Hall of Fame level hitter, but probably not a fit, probably not going to get traded, but at least worth mentioning there. The Phillies, after this series with the Red Sox, are now headed to Pittsburgh this weekend, and it's 3 interesting pitching matchups. Game 1, you have Aaron Nola against Braxton Ashcraft. Ashcraft has been really good, 2.77 ERA and 8 starts. Game 2 is Christopher Sanchez against Bubba Chandler. Chandler has not been good, but obviously came in with a ton of hype this season, has really good stuff. And then Game 3 is about as good as it's going to get. Zach Wheeler's last win before a week or two ago was when actually, no, it wasn't the start against Skubal, but that was one of his last starts last year before he got hurt. This year, you're going to have him, if things stay on track as they are. Wheeler goes Sunday against Paul Skeens, who Paul Skeens got lit up on opening day in New York, and since then it feels like he hasn't allowed a run. He's got a 1.98 ERA despite not making it out of the first inning on opening day. So there is 3 really interesting pitching matchups.
Yeah, they're going to need Nola to pitch really well. He didn't pitch. It wasn't poor his last outing, but it wasn't great. 23 foul balls. He's got to put some batters away. He can't have his pitch count run up that way. It's just. I know it was. Who was that against? Was that Oakland, or was that
not Oakland? But yeah,
it was the A's, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was the Athletics. They're always going to be Oakland to me. So yeah, I mean, they're going to need a little bit more out of him. I like the Saturday matchup, right? I think that's a good one for the Phillies. And then, Wheeler Skeens is going to be a 1-0 game. I mean, that's really what it's going to be, one of those, like 1-0, 2-1. It's going to be a low scoring game. Could go either way. So if you want to win this series, I do think you need Aaron Nola to pitch well against the Pirates tomorrow night or tonight, whenever, it depends on when you're watching this. We're recording it Thursday night. So on Friday, whatever, Aaron Nola needs to give you a good start. And the Phillies are going to have to lean on this pitching, Tim, because like we said, they're just not getting enough consistent offense. It's one thing to put up, a bunch of runs against the Colorado Rockies pitching staff, but as you saw against Boston, even a remotely, decent pitching staff they're struggling to put up runs. And the Pirates have a good pitching staff, so they're going to probably struggle to put up runs this weekend as well. I think that they're going to need their starters to come through in at least 2 of the games, if not all 3, to have a chance to win this series.
Yeah, and the Pirates have an interesting lineup. It was atrocious last year. They've made some changes internally, externally. Connor Griffin, who Bryce Harper raved about in spring training, he had a slow start, but he's got an 854 OPS this month, so he's kind of figuring it out. They made 3 big external lineup additions in the offseason. Marcell Ozuna's been bad. He's got a 581 OPS. But Brandon Lowe and Ryan O'Hearn, Brandon Lowe's got a 908 OPS. His problem his whole career has just been staying healthy. Right now he's doing it. And Ryan O'Hearn, who was kind of a late bloomer last year, split with the Orioles and the Padres, he's got an 813 OPS. So the Pirates lineup is still maybe not intimidating, but it's much better than it was.
Yeah, it's a little bit different of a navigation getting through their lineup than it used to be, right? It used to be that you only had to worry about 1 or 2 guys at the top of the lineup, and then you kind of cruised. Now they got some depth to it, and it's like, okay, this isn't, it's not unscalable, but there are certain uphill portions that you have to kind of work your way through. So it is going to be a little bit of a challenge. Look, the Pirates, they won again tonight. They 7-2. I think they won. That NL Central is shockingly, every team is above 500. The Pirates have been playing good baseball. This is not, as easy a team as it used to be. And not to mention, since I was there last year, the Phillies got swept in Pittsburgh last season. Like, they did not play well. That's where Bryce Harper got hurt, or he came out of the lineup and went on the IL when they were out there. But it was not a good series. They struggled out there last year too. So, you got to think that it's going to be a lot like this series we just watched against Boston, and the Phillies got to find a way to potentially win 2 of the 3.
Yeah, and like you said, take Friday and Saturday and Sunday's gravy, because you're facing one of the best pitchers potentially we've ever seen the way his career started. So exciting stuff. It should be a fun series over the weekend. We will be back on Friday morning with a new episode of the On Pattison podcast. So if you're watching this before then, check that out at 11 a.m. If not, it'll be on demand on YouTube and all the podcast platforms.
But we're going to be going week by week, picking the Eagles season.
We're going Mike and the Mad Dog on
old school.
the Eagles schedule. I used to think that's like the laziest thing to do. I don't care. It's fun. I enjoy doing it. So we're going to do that tomorrow. Also mix in some Sixers and Flyers talk as well. But this was your Phillies stoplight for whatever the date is today. The Phillies take 2 of 3 from 14th,
May 14th.
Probably May 15th by the time you're listening. The Phillies take 2 of 3 from the Red Sox. Make sure to like this video, hit the hype button after you like it, rate us 5 stars on the podcast platform, share it with your friend. Thank you to Wapner Newman, and we are part of the Federi News Network, proud of it, and we will have a ton of great coverage on OnPattison.com moving forward. We'll talk to you guys next time.